huge get for Scheyer, obviously, getting the Boozer twins. They live in Miami. So that was a big question, right? They live in Miami. They're probably, Cameron, the big man who is a walking double-double, is probably a one and done. His brother Caden is a terrific point guard, ranked in the top 25, extremely underrated. We both love him because he just makes people better. I was talking to Carlos yesterday, and I asked him, we were just BSing, and he was talking about winning. And I had actually thought that Miami was the favorite a few months ago. I haven't done much work on it, but so I kind of thought, okay, maybe it's going to be Miami. And when he said, winning's the priority, which is all these kids have done. I mean, they win at the Peach Jam every year. They win their state title every year. All these dudes do is win. And that's the beauty of them. Then it kind of hit me that, all right, maybe it is Duke.
Yeah, it's something where I think that the appeal of being able to stay home and not follow in their father's footsteps is probably something that I think a lot of kids probably deal with. But at the end of the day, like, we're talking about Duke, we're talking about the biggest brand in college basketball. We're talking about the place where NIL doesn't just have to be the money that's getting funded to you from a collective, right? I mean, Cooper Flag, if you walk by any New Balance store right now in the United States of America, you're going to see a picture of Cooper Flag on it. Steve Forbes yesterday was kind of bemoaning the fact that he has to walk around in Winston-Salem around New Balance stores that have pictures of Cooper Flag on it.
They're in New Balance stores? I didn't even know New Balance had stores.
Yeah, there are New Balance stores out there. Honestly, that's a little bit shocking because you tend to be like the target market for New Balance. Old guys, dads that are washed up. So, no, I think that it makes too much sense for them to go there because of the connection with Carlos, because of the connection with Jon Scheyer. And you know what the giveaway for me was? John and Carlos were all buddy the last 2 days down in Charlotte. And I think that if he was actually going to Miami, maybe it would not have quite gone that way. I want to talk a little bit before we talk about what it means for Duke, because, like, look, it's Duke. They get great recruits all the time, and there's another conversation to be had there. I want to talk a little bit about who these guys are as players. I love Caden. Before we get into that, though, Cameron Boozer, I feel like if there was no such thing as Cooper Flag and there was no such thing as AJ DeBonsa, and we were looking at this as a situation where, like, he was the guy in his class, people would be a lot more excited about him. I feel like he has kind of gone underrated nationally in terms of just how good he has a chance to be, because of the fact that there are these other two guys who are super exciting, incredible prospects that are, I don't even know if I would call them in front of him right now, but along and in this same class. And what I mean by that is, this dude is like he's not just a walking double-double, Jeff. He's like a walking 25 and 15 right now at every level he's ever been at. He's won at every level he's been at. And every single time I've seen him, there's something that he's added to his game, right? Last year in the summer, it was like, okay, he started knocking down threes a little bit. This year, it's like, okay, he's starting to play a little bit on the perimeter, or playing on the perimeter a little bit more. Okay, he still has this like overwhelming, dominant, low post back to the basket game. He's an incredible rebounder. I know it's very easy to connect the dots between him and Paolo Banchero because, like, they're kind of the same build and they're kind of the same size, and they're both going to Duke. So that parallel is always going to be there. I said over the summer, I think it's more Kevin Love, what he could end up being long term in the NBA than a Paolo Banchero. But, like, I don't think that comparing him to Paolo is necessarily out of the question in terms of what his impact could be. Maybe a little bit different as players, but I think that is kind of what we're talking about with him as what his potential is. And, like, that is a damn good basketball player. And I feel like it just is not getting the level of hype that you would elsewhere.
Because he's not flashy, on or off the court. He doesn't say two words. He and his brother really don't. They're the nicest kids ever. But they're kind of vanilla, off the court. They don't say a whole lot. They don't talk trash on the court. His game isn't flashy. That's the big thing with Cameron is, like you said, he can go for 25 and 15, but it's just kind of sometimes a ho-hum, 25 and 15. You look down at the end of the game and you're like, all right, what do you have? Like 15 and 8? And you look down and he's got that 25 and 15. He just does everything your team needs to win. And yeah, he's not explosive like Paulo. That's the big thing. He's more fundamentally sound. I kind of would compare him a little bit. And again, he's not going to have the upside of this guy. He's not as big, but Tim Duncan, that's who I would compare him to in a lot of ways, to be honest. He's understated. He just gets the job done. He's reliable. He doesn't say anything. Like that's kind of who he reminds me of is Tim Duncan.
Yeah, I mean, personality wise, I don't think their games are quite the same. But I mean, I think this is a massive addition for Duke. I think it's a little bit of a statement recruitment because of the fact that there was a while where it seemed like the winds were blowing towards Miami a little bit. So credit to Jon Scheyer for getting it done. And it's not just the fact that you get like Cameron Boozer by himself is a great pickup. I think he's underrated in terms of just how good he can be, Cameron. And you know who else is underrated? His brother Caden. Like he is one of the highest IQ point guards I've seen in the AAU ranks. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've watched as much AAU basketball or summer basketball as our guy, Ani Umanu, who, by the way, we wanted to be on here, but he's literally sitting on an airplane right now, flying from Houston to, I think it's Colorado Springs for USA basketball. So bad timing, Caden, Cameron. Thanks for that. Trying to do us some favors over here. No, but Caden, I love Caden. I think he's got an NBA future. I think that his ability as a playmaker, as a decision maker, as a dude that's like a 6'5", 200-pound point guard, he's built like a rock. I think he's going to be a terrific player. And both of them, you know, we talk a little bit about like, can you rely on freshmen at the next level? Like, I think that both of them will be able to come in and impact college basketball at a very high level immediately. It may not be the prettiest, it may not be the flashiest. They're not going to be Zion. They're not going to have all these Sports Center highlights, but those dudes can just hoop. They're high IQ, and they only like they're robots, man. They're robots. They care about one thing: basketball and winning basketball games.
Yeah, I mean, again, you get two guys that know each other as well as any two teammates are going to know each other coming into college also. Like that's the beauty. You have your point guard and your big, and they've played together their whole lives, and all they do is win together. So that's a huge advantage too. And they're not freshmen in their IQs. They're just not, you know, on and off the court. Now the key is, you know, kind of like Scheyer did this year with Cooper Flag, building a team around him. Now the key is like you're kind of building a team around these guys to some degree because you got your point guard, you got your big, and now you're going to need a bunch of wings. And obviously, you don't know who's going to stick around from this year's team and who's going to leave. Obviously, Cooper Flag will be gone, Malawak will be gone. I don't know if could Khan be a one and done. I know the hype is there for him to be a one and done, but we got to see it on the court to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, what it's going to be is something similar, right? You need to go get a bunch of athletic, versatile wings. You know, when you kind of building a roster, when you built the roster around Cooper Flag, it was okay. We have this extremely switchable point forward kind of a piece. Now we got to put guys around him that are going to be just as good defensively that can also knock down shots. A couple of playmakers in there, right? I think with this group they got coming in next year, like you got to get the versatile, switchable 3-and-D guys. You got to be able to have like go out and find the next Mason
Gillis. And you need shooters because neither one of these guys are knockdown shooters by any means.
Yeah, for sure. That's the whole, you know, when you say 3-and-D, the three part in 3-and-D Goodman means you can shoot the three.
Just dude, I'm tuning you out like nobody's business because this was day 5. This was supposed to be an off day.
This was too early, man. Like they had to do this at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning after we just spent literally the last 72 hours on the road.
Got nothing to do. Whether they did it at 9 a.m., whether they did it at 3 p.m., I was not supposed to see you today.
Yeah. Well, likewise. Last thing I'll say is this, and I do think it's a little bit of a bigger conversation, but I know T.O. has been kind of beating this drum for a while, but we're talking now about a second straight season where Duke is building entirely around one and done freshmen. And are we going to revert back to the mean with this? Or are we going to go back to a place where going and getting these one and dones is a way that you can be able to build?
Wait, you're saying they're both one and dones? You're calling the Boozers both one and dones?
Cameron will be. There's very little doubt in my mind that he will be. And I I would probably lean towards Caden doing enough to prove himself to be able to be in that conversation. Now, whether he's like a one and done obvious
I
pick
don't
or
think, Rob, I just don't think they go in with the same mentality as maybe some other guys because, I was talking to Carlos about this yesterday, and the one point he did make, and everybody knows it, is like these kids don't need to run the fastest race. They've got a lot of money.
Mhm.
Like it's not like money is the end all be all. So if they feel like Caden can benefit from another year, and even Cameron, like if he doesn't, again, I just can't imagine Cameron would need to come back for another year because I think he'll be a lock lottery pick. But I don't think it's the same as building around Cooper Flag. I think they're very different. Where you look at Cooper Flag as like a generational type player, a unique player. Cameron's more of a throwback player. I mean, that's what he is. He's a complete throwback player. You could put him in the 80s and 90s, and I think his game fits better there than it does today.